Is all of that really over for us? Maybe you'd get your curly-haired girl this time, my husband teased on one of those occasions. Little baby Rose, he sighed, evoking the vision of a daughter named after two great-grandmothers, a vision that vanished with the birth of our second son. What are you getting all mushy about? I demanded incredulously. You know you don't want another, do you? Well, it would be exciting having you pregnant again, he admitted. That big belly growing, another birth, seeing the baby come out, watching you be so strong. We smiled at each other, remembering, and then he shook his head. But the minute that baby was in your arms and nursing, you'd realize it was all a terrible mistake. He was right. Still, I was surprised that my husband had articulated my ambivalence so astutely. Although pregnancy made me feel more like a grumpy, avenging angel than a powerful fertility goddess, I savor the thought of giving birth again. Because really, is there anything else that comes close? My first son's birth took place in a haze of exhaustion. There were raised voices shouting, "Push, push, push!" Pain. There was an unbearable burning sensation. And then, though I have no memory of his emerging, a gangly baby was being held up in front of me. When my second son was born, 3 years later, I was more with it. This time, all present had strict instructions not to yell push at me. This time, I actually felt the baby, hard and soft and slippery all at once, slithering out through me. 2 years later, well, it's actually 6 years now, I can still mentally summon up the exhilaration of that moment. The triumphant realization that I had just pushed a human being out of my body and into the world. I had never been more proud of myself. I want to do that. Sometimes I fantasize about how it would be. After 2 hospital births, this time I might have the baby at home. No bumpy car ride with the contractions 4 minutes apart. No nurses coming around to hook me up to that damn monitor. This time I would remember to prepare the right soothing music mix. Gregorian chants, ethereal guitars. I stop myself before this scenario gets too groovy. Some aspects of the way I labor would undoubtedly remain the same. To be strictly honest, I would probably be yelling at everyone to just shut up for the love of God, the way I did the last 2 times. That would be fine. It's not going to happen. My husband will get the snip, my toddler will wean, and this exhausting phase of our lives will give way to the next one. I won't imagine a next birth because I'll be certain there won't be one. If my period is late, there will be no half-terrified, half-thrilled consultation of the calendar. I'll finally sort through those boxes of little hats and sweaters on the basement shelves. I can't quite picture it, but we'll move on to being parents of school-aged children. Homework and soccer practice are as foreign to me now as diaper changing used to be, but I'll figure it out. Recently, my husband and I brought a meal to new parents in the neighborhood. We cooed over the baby. I couldn't wait to be asked to hold her. How light in our arms she was. How delicate and perfect those little fingernails. But in the car, on the way home, there was a palpable sense of relief, of escape, of better them than us. We laughed giddily like trekkers who were finally descending the mountain. I don't want another child. But I look at myself in the mirror sometimes, at my belly that's sheltered 2 babies, and my breasts that have nourished them. And it's strangely sad to think that never again will I feel the invisible dance of a baby kicking inside me. That from here on out, my body won't be called upon to sustain anyone but me. That this phase of my life is ending. On the other hand, there's something to be said for physical independence. I won't miss being woken nightly by a toddler's sleepy demands to nurse. I can't imagine feeling nostalgia for the nausea of pregnancy or the fatigue of new motherhood. My maternity clothes? Long since passed on to friends. And then, of course, there's the sex. My husband and I may have mocked that cheesy video at the HMO, but we want the same thing Brad and Janet wanted. These days, sexual encounters are either triumphs of strategy or brazen acts of defiance against Morpheus. Fighting our way through the chaos and fatigue to reconnect can be exhilarating, but often enough it's easier not to make the effort. A marriage that has weathered the pressures of 2 active children needs all the spontaneous passion it can get. Graduate school, full-time work, and family life take a lot of a man's time. And for the 1.5 years since we watched that video, getting on with life has pretty much precluded the pursuit. But with the degree finally in hand, my husband has made the appointment. The 7-month-old baby we brought with us to the HMO that day is now over 2 years old, and has become a playmate to his brother instead of an unwelcome interloper. Watching our boys race down the street hand in hand or put their heads together over some scheme, we see how far we've traveled. And with each milestone reached, it's easier not to think about starting the journey over. I'm ready.